Hiya, my name's Chris Duggan, commonly known as TLP Red. I'm giving this a bash, creating a YouTube video, just walking people through how typically I would conduct my research into threat actors, what I look at, the tools I use, and hopefully just provide some useful pointers. So I thought we'd start off by just looking at this report today. It's on North Korea with a new macOS malware. It was reported 7th November in Bleeping Computer, and typically if I see an interesting article like this in Bleeping Computer, I'll have a skim through, have a read, but I always like to go to the source article. So in this instance, I always open up a new tab, and it's by Sentinel Labs. So really quite a detailed report talking about these fake crypto news and novel persistence. Typically, truth be known, I just always scroll right to the bottom of the report. I generally don't read them, not unless I start delving into much more detail. And really I'm just looking at, so you've got some IPs there, but normally just scroll all the way to the bottom and look for the IP addresses. Hopefully they have them. So in this instance we've got a bunch there. So for the purpose of this this video, I've had a look at them already, and typically I'd open up a text editor, text file like this, copy and paste, and then work on them one by one. So generally my workflow would be that the first place I'd go to typically would be VirusTotal. I just drop them in here and just have a look. So generally the first thing I want to see is whether it's a dynamic IP or not. So in other words, if this is a 200 and there's loads and loads of domains on there, typically I wouldn't be interested in that. I'd have a look at what the domains are, but generally I'm looking for an IP address that has a very low number of domains that's controlled by the adversary. So something that they're using. In this particular one, obviously it's been reported by Sentinel Labs, so it's linked it to the report, so it gives us a bit of background on there, and the relationship on there. So you've got the communicating files and some data around there. Obviously someone has uploaded some IOCs. The next place I'd go to typically is drop it into Twitter and just see if it's been reported before. This IP actually was tweeted by myself back in August. It was at the time spoofing a cryptocurrency related business. It didn't have any hits on VirusTotal, so it was completely new. And it had this funny loading page, which actually is on GitHub. So they've used a GitHub, some code from GitHub to create this landing page. And when you look in URL scan, there's many ones on there which are probably not malicious. But so that was at the time I thought it was TA444, and so my next thing would be, so okay, this is generally on the right track here. So so I open up a text file, give it a title, and I always save my research. And I'd also load, if I want to, I'd load into Multigo as well and start building it out around the report. So we've got the first IP which we're going to have a look at. So really what I'd like to do is try and pivot off of this and see if there's any new infrastructure that reconfirms what's in the report, and also to see if they've missed anything. So I take the IP and load it up into Shodan and basically just start having a look at the initial landing page on here. So we've got two ports open, port 80 and 443. 443 generally has more pivot points on it, so I'd go to that first. So looking at the header, when you start looking and analysing infrastructure in this way, you start recognising odd headers and odd configurations that generally stand out. So for me, just glancing at this, first of all, we've got this strange 403 here, even though the page is a 200 OK. So that's the first one that stands out. So typically I'd right click on that and open that up in a new tab. So Shodan being Shodan is a little bit slow. So this one, obviously you can see the 403 forbidden on there, which we don't want. So typically what I would do is start trying to filter those down. So So let's put 403 forbidden and a space. So we've gone from 7.5 million. Let's see what that reduces down to. So we've got 356,000. So still way too many results, but it's filtering down as we go. So the next thing I'd look at is this header as a point of just to really see how unique is this header. Is there lots and lots of them, or is it something? So I'd cut and paste it into my working file. Remove the date off, so it's just got date GMT in there, as you can see. The rest I'd probably keep the same for the time being. And what I would generally do is actually go here. Let's paste that in. And we've got one result, which is the original starting point IP. So one on port 80 and one on 443. So actually that configuration is extremely unique. So it's only one IP on the entire internet that's in Shodan's database that has that. So I probably want to open that out a bit more. And I know from past experience, these version numbers or these numbers on here often change. So one of the things I would do is look to remove those out. And let's take a note of the initial title page, so you can put that in here, and then we'll drop that in. So let's delete that off, start again, and let's see what this brings out this time. So now we've got 6 results, so in essence only 3 because we've got 443 and port 80. So let's just look at 443. So we've got one starting with 45 ending in 26, and that's a new IP, so it's not on our list. Let's double check to make sure it's not one in the report. So I generally just do a search. Oh, actually it is in the report, so that one's in the report. Perfect. And let's go back to our results. The 2375, double check that one, that's in the report. Perfect. And we've got one, the third one on there, so no results. So that's a new IP on not reported. So generally what I'd do is go back here, have a look in virus total, and we can see that interestingly 13th of September there was this domain resolving to it. So have a look. So it's 2,000 siblings. So yeah, an interesting result on the first one. So something that hasn't been reported, may or may not be malicious, but probably would want to. First of all, I would take a note of the hunt, and that would be the first what I'd class as success, because we've got a new IP off of that. And then let's just have a look at this in a bit more detail. So open that up, and so similar configuration to the other one. Just looking down, this one's got a public key of 1024, so slightly different public key on there. These generally will vary, especially particularly around with North Korea, the way that they register and their certificates on there. So the other thing, going back to the original IP that we looked at, and then this one would be the HTML page. So we've got this HTML page on here, so we can have a look at what results that brings back. And see how unique that is in the configuration. So again, we have 6 results, filter that down to 443. So we've actually reconfirmed a hunt. It's the same 3 IPs, and they're all using that very, very unique HTML page. So what I'd say is that's 2 hunts, 2 hunt rules that we've got just pivoting off there. I'd say with a fairly high level of confidence that this IP is related to that activity based on the configuration, the way the certificate's working on there, and also that HTML page. So I certainly would be interested in keeping an eye on that just to see if anything happens. So let's move on to the next IP. So they're going back to Shodan. So dropping that IP in. So on this one, we have. So we've got port 80 open, but no 443. So generally, considering that the other one was on 443, and when you actually do read through the report, it talks about the domain spoofing and whatnot on there, the cryptocurrency. So typically, my next favourite tool is FOFA. I really like FOFA. It works really nicely. There's lots of data in here, and often it can fill the gaps in an investigation. So on this one, it actually has more results than Shodan on for that IP. So let's look at 443. There's 4 results on there. So let's have a look. So we go to the earlier one. So we've got this certificate on there. So it mentions this firm, Sentinel Capital. So I think when we go on here and do a check, there's a whole bunch of activity around this domain name or this cryptocurrency firm. So what I'm interested in is looking at what's actually going on in these older ones. So we've got a 302 not found, and then we've got this. So it's basically got like a redirect on there to this .com domain, and then the next one. So a couple of months later, we've got the same redirect on there, and on this one. And then finally on this one, there's a difference. So probably the server's been activated, or we've got this XYZ domain on there. So now we've got some spoofing. So these ones, XYZ, and we'll look at the certificate, and let's look at the older one. We've got .com on there. So it's gone meet SeliniCapital.com. This one, we've got the XYZ domain, so, and a change of header. So what I typically do is take this header, let's paste it back into our notepad, and then the other thing is just looking at the certificate, seeing if there's anything standing out as a bit different, anything that we can pivot off from there. And probably on this one I would take that public key and add that to my configuration to have a look at. So I'd put a search in there, and then basically just whip out the date, so that when we search for the header in Shodan, it can see. Interesting, it's got a content length of 0, so it's not really returning anything for the HTML. So popping back to Shodan, let's pick a fresh panel. So, and let's see what that brings back. So that brings back 5 results. Interesting. And let's see if we have a look at these results, what we've got. So we've got some, so they're all similar apart from this one. So this one, obviously you've got this other set cookie in the header, which is different. So I'd probably want to filter that out as best I can to narrow as accurately as I can the results. So let's filter out the set cookie field and start narrowing these results down. So we've got 4 results here, so interesting. And just looking over the way that these are configured, so we've got different hosting providers, different locations in the world, but generally they look very, very similar, same versions number, so pretty unique. So typically what I do here is take one of these, so take the IP, drop it in virus total, and let's see what the results are. So no hits, 0 out of 94. Next thing I'd look at is the relations. So the domains on here, there's only 4, and one is the 4th of November, but interestingly we've got these communicating files. So obviously there's some files on here that have beaconed out to this IP and have, quite substantial amount of malicious confidence that these are malicious files. So what I'd do is just open up a few tabs for these and just have a poke around to see what we've got. So in this one we've got like an executable and whatnot. So let's just have a look. So the first one, scrolling down, to be honest, I generally probably just look at the community comments. So this one's a Luma stealer malware, which is interesting. So we've pivoted off of this cryptocurrency spoofing, and now we've got Luma stealer malware on there. So interesting poet rat snatch. Okay. So first hit, Luma malware. So the next one, we've got some detections on here. No community comments. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So this one, again on community comments, we've got some detection rules on there. I think if we look at the detections, if there are any notes or anything. So it says it's a Trojan dropper. And this one is Trojan banker. So okay, so we've got different activity, and then we've got another one with a community comment, Luma stealer. Interesting. So that's off of that first IP we've looked at. So it seems to be quite an interesting hunt, that one. What we've come up with. Let's check another one and see. It may be just a lucky break, but let's see what we guys come up with. So we've got one hit, so that's a good indicator. And this one has it's obviously been mentioned in some form of IOCs. We've got some recent activities, so October, got a domain on there, got a couple of communicating files, a zip file on there, so potentially something that may be worth looking or investigating further. So that's that one. Let's have a look at this one just to see if there's anything on here. So another 1 out of 94, interesting. So another domain on there, again fairly recent activity, a communicating file. So it looks quite interesting that that pivot on there, that we've now got this extra infrastructure with some other bits on. Let's just double check we didn't do the first one. Let's just see if there's anything on that. So no 0 out of 94 detections. Nothing on that, so nothing on that domain. I guess we could Google what is Cartoxa, maybe be related to something, so we could always drop it into URL scan, see if it resolves to anything, but I'm not really sure what that is. Probably if I had time I'd probably dig into that a bit more. But yeah, initially we've got some results there worth digging into, and I'd probably, as I go, I'd be adding these to my Maltego graph. That I've got another pivot off this one and off of this domain, this IP. There's potentially a new hunt there that we could look at. The other thing I'd do, so generally I think, okay, that's a fairly decent rule. So I'd add that under here. So what was the original IP was this one. I'm putting it in the wrong place. So let's put it under here. Get rid of that one. And then the other thing I'd do, I'd be intrigued to look at, is actually that's got 4 results, but could we expand it out a bit more? So what I would do is take out these numbers here and across here, and just see if it actually gives us any more results. It may be a ridiculous number, so it hasn't worked, and sometimes it does. It's just worth playing around with these just to see what we come up with. So on this one, pivoting back to, or going back to Shodan, let's see how many results come up off this IP. Sometimes Shodan can be a bit temperamental and slow. FOFA generally on the whole is quicker. So this one we've got 69 results. Okay, so but I can see some of these results aren't matching. They've got extra fields in, so I probably want to filter these out. So cache control, let's take that one and go back up and start, in essence, tuning our hunt. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, it has done. So we've gone down to 47. Let's take this refresh, get rid of that one. So I've not even gone into the raw data, just literally pivoting off the headers on these ones. But so we've now got 41 results. So probably, and again, this is just one of many ways of doing it. There's lots of different ways to filter stuff out. I'm probably showing you the long-winded way for the purpose of this video. So we got down to about 40 results. So let's just see if any of these. So here's an interesting one. So bearing in mind North Korea, this was actually this domain was mentioned in a hunt.io report fairly recently. They did some pivots on some infrastructure there, so that's quite interesting. And let's just have a look if that's got any detections. No, nothing. So that may be a dud. This may be not a very good hunt. The first one certainly produced some interesting results. Nothing really coming out of that, although there's 21 communicating files, but they're quite old by the looks of them, so nothing really exciting on that one. And I'll probably just test one more, and then if I could be bothered, I might spend a bit more time on this trying to tune and pick through these, or may not. But no, it doesn't appear to be anything on there. And let's just try one more for luck. So just flip the page over, see if there's any older results. So these don't match. This one matches here, this German one, and this one. Let's see what this returns. Interesting. So we've got one communicating file from last year, and domain from 2019. So what's this one on there? So Linux Trojan. So actually it may be, if a bit more time, maybe worthwhile spend a bit more time on refining this rule down, having a look at these and just seeing actually does it relate to anything in particular that's of interest. Let's try a couple more on there. No, nothing. So we have got, going back to our hunt, so we've looked at two IPs and we've managed to pivot off of both of those. So the question mark against that one, the first one I'd say is pretty decent. We've got that stealer in there. So one of the things I'll probably do, I've got a Python script that automates these. So once I have a rule that I'm interested in, I add it to it and run the script each day. If anyone's interested, I could probably publish that script. So let's just look at this last one. So this one on here, we have got the 443 port 43 open with a header. This one's got 1024 on the public key. We could check to see what if the HTML is fairly unique or not. It is. So on this one, I'd probably say, okay, let's have a look at the raw data on it. What's making that page unique? Is it something that we can pivot off of? So I generally expand or go down to the port 443 on here. So where are you? And let's have a look. It's a HTML0. So there's nothing in there worth looking at. So that was a waste of time. And so let's cut and paste this header. And we do some analysis on this. So again, whip out the date. Get rid of that. So yeah, sorry, I should have spotted that as a content length 0 on there. So that'll save a bit of time. And then again, so we've got the the public key to try and filter it down. We could always put a JARM in there if need be, or some of the other pivot points, and we can have a look at that if be later. So let's have a look. 14 results, but then again we probably want to filter out some of these. So we've got this one here, so we get rid of that. So let's put the bang in and then see what we've got. Still 14 results, odd. But scrolling down, looking through the results on here, let's have a look and see what we've got. So, on the hosting, we've got the vast majority on this OVH SAS. Amazon probably be a bit dubious about anything on Amazon. In other words, probably not something I'd be interested in. Not for this, but these ones I would be. So we could skip past them. Let's see what other results and if any of these. So we've got one. The IP that we've got is this one, which we know is in the report, and so there's another 172 in there. So ours is 47. There's a 172.64. Let's just see if that appears in the report. In there. Nope, it doesn't. So another 0 out of 94 detections. We have got a domain on there or something, but no activity. So that's interesting. So and let's go back to our results. So that's the one in the report. Got that one. So, and I'll skip to this one because I have gone through them. But the interesting thing on this, this one is completely clean, 0 out of 94. Community comments. So got Sequoia, the French company. They've said it's hosted Cobalt Strike 6 months ago. So that's fairly interesting. And again, surprising that no one else has tagged this as Cobalt Strike, which is quite interesting. Typically, you usually got the old C2 bots on here that have pick these out with generally a fairly high amount of accuracy, but nothing showing. So something from 2021, some activity on there, but nothing recent. Potentially something from 6th of March. But anyway, so let's look at the relationships and see if there's any pivot points off here. So we've only got 8 domains. Ferrari Club, interesting, from 2023, but we've got some communicating files. So typically, this is quite interesting. So let me take a note of the hunt that got me to this result, and going back to the relationships on these files. We've got 5 files from 2023, so let's just have a look and see what these open up to. So no community comments, reconnaissance, so quite a large number of detections on there. Just seeing if any ransom, interesting, malicious, Trojan. Probably watch this back and see I've missed a load of stuff, but okay, smoke loader. So on this one, it says it's related to stealer malware, so interesting, considering we've already seen that already. Redliner, stealer C, snake loader, smoke loader malware, backdoor evasion techniques. So interesting find, smoke loader. This one again, Trojan. No community comments. Got some community comments on this one. Smoke loader again, and smoke loader. So interestingly, so we've managed to pivot off of this report and find some Cobalt Strike infrastructure, although I can't see anyone else reporting as Cobalt Strike. But what we do have is now 13 other domains. Now, when I've looked through these, they don't appear to be, I couldn't really find anything else of interest on them, on these domains. They all seem to be pretty clean, although there just seem to be things like this, where low detections on some interesting subdomains on the infrastructure on this older stuff, so might be worth digging in a bit more on that, but again, not really sure what that is. But yeah, some interesting pivot points just looking off of those things. So yeah, that's typically how I'd work my way through a report. The other things I would do is download the results, start putting them into a Multigo graph. Probably if I was to do a tweet on these ones generally I wouldn't tweet. I may tweet that may potentially pivot to that Cobalt Strike and talk about that. But certainly on that first one, where there's the other one detected on there, I'd probably tweet that if something was interesting. And that's generally what I do. That's how I work through a report initially. The other areas that I'd go into is the raw data. I'd delve into that, looking at the JARMs and things like that. But that's typically how I come up with stuff. So when I've tweeted stuff before like this, it generally is just studying reports like I have done, then put these hunt rules into a Python script, which will basically run this query and then store the results into a text file or a library, and then basically every time I run the script it updates and just shows me the new stuff, and that way it saves me time. I can just analyse any new IPs that are appearing on that hunt, and then you start finding this interesting stuff before anyone else. You get to write a tweet about it, and eventually appear in Sentinel Labs, because when they quite nice on this one, when they talked about it being talked about in the community, they referenced my tweet in there, so it's quite nice to get referenced in an article like that. But yeah, I just thought I'd start making these videos just as a bit of fun, nothing serious. Let me know if you like them, and happy hunting.